norms and stereotypes to making sure that the butts are white. Boy, girl, mom and dad want grown-up time, you're going mad. It's a trip, but we'll guide you through with tips and tricks for boys and girls too. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
You welcome.
Episode 23.
2, 3.
Yeah. Today, we are going to be talking about etiquette for friends and family after bringing home a baby. So for visitors. But it's also for the parent. So keep listening either way.
Yeah, we can all improve. There's things we can all do. Whether you're the baby haver, the baby haver spouse, that's the professional term, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or a guest.
Yeah. Yeah, and basically we talked about this in little pockets on other episodes, but I thought it would be good to put it all in one episode just to get it in a place where it's all together, number one, but also in a space where you could actually send this episode to a friend or family member who's coming to visit after you have a baby. So it's like you don't even have to think about it. You can just send it and say like, here, these are things that I like, or have an idea for them to be like, I'm not crazy for setting boundaries and wanting that you might understand my thoughts after listening to this. So it's for you, it's your friends, it's for family. Pass it on, share the love.
One way I would share it, if I were to share it, is to say, hey, here's something that captures my thoughts well around when people are visiting after the baby's here.
Yeah, sounds great.
I would not, just me, I would not say, here's something to prove I'm not crazy.
I am more so saying it for the person who would be sending it, because I think there are a lot of thoughts in yourself if you're trying, not people please, I think that does fit it, but if you're trying to think about the other people's feelings and things like that, it can be hard and scary, especially depending on the person's personality, to voice what you want, and this could be an easier way to do it. So I was more so speaking, I don't know that I would say it to somebody.
That's what I was clarifying, because I know it's going to help you not feel crazy, the collective you, right? That point completely makes sense. I'm just saying, when you deliver the video, if you're going to, don't say that.
Yeah, no, I'm speaking to you if you're the mom in this and you feel crazy, or someone's reactions that maybe you feel crazy. I just want you to know you're not alone and you're not crazy.
Like that.
So also this was a request. So if you have a request for us, let us know. We would love to talk about it and would love to help you out on things to do, or just talk through a question with you. Maybe one day we'll have lives where you can just take questions live.
Maybe you want to see us argue about something and you throw a topic out there and we'll have a friendly argument.
Not my favorite, but okay.
Same.
Okay. You ready for the TIFF?
As ready as I can be.
Okay. So every week to kind of start the episode out, we have a TIFF. And if you have a TIFF that you want us to discuss, let us know. But typically or Nick comes up with them sometimes, but typically I'm coming up with them. And so today I want to talk about going on a trip. And I thought it would be a perfect topic to discuss because when this episode drops, we'll be in London. So my TIFF is, do you unpack immediately when you get home, or do you leave the suitcase for a few days? And the thing about TIFFs, though, is that Nick and I are not always on opposing sides. Sometimes we're like, oh, our friend does something weird, or, we agree on it in that manner. But sometimes it's just like, okay, you're weird and you do this, and we want to see what y'all do, and we want to see your opinion, just to see which one of us is right and which one of us is crazy. But I think both of us kind of do both. I'd say in an ideal world, we are unpackers, right?
Yes.
It depends how late we are back and how tired we are, but I think maybe 8 or 9 times out of 10 we unpack.
Yeah, I would say if we're doing what we want to be doing and we're in like good mental state when we get home and things aren't chaotic when we get home, we're unpackers right now. All the way up to putting the suitcase away. We don't put the suitcase away just because it lives in the twins' nursery right now. But everything, take out, put the laundry away. If we have laundry, put the clothes that are clean or still clean or whatever in the closet, in the drawers, everything, unpack. We're that way. But we've also been the other way when we've been forced to, with crazy circumstances when we've come home.
Yeah, I do think it depends on what time of day we come home. If it's in the morning and we're thrown right into a work schedule, that is a little bit harder to do it, but it's also really hard when we arrive in the evening and we just want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't really see a benefit to leaving it packed except to catch up on sleep. Also there's stuff in there that I often need. I have like some travel toiletries, but I'll oftentimes need something specific out of the suitcase that I have to open it up anyway. And then if we leave it open, our cat will get in it and there's fur everywhere. It just is better to
I feel like
unpack.
everybody can probably agree that putting it away first is preferable. I think the question is like, what team are you on? Are you the one that typically does put it away, or do you kind of leave it? Because we've been the leave it people before as well, not necessarily because of crazy circumstances at home. Sometimes it's just like we don't want to deal with this right now. But you're right, it is always better when we do put the stuff away and unpack.
And I'm thinking about, if we visit family, typically we come back with mostly clean clothes, but clean clothes are harder to put away than just throwing all the dirty clothes in the laundry. So I'm thinking about when we come back from Europe, we'll probably stick a lot of the stuff just in our laundry bag for rinse to do our laundry.
Yeah.
And I feel like that will be slightly easier to unpack just because it's all dirty. I don't know.
Sure, but I mean, that's probably true for London. But like, since we've used rinse, throwing any laundry in that bag is easy, regardless of how long or far the trip is. And I would also argue like putting it in a hamper is also like we're not recommending do all your laundry when you get home that same night.
That,
We're
that
just saying
is
like
that is a great habit just to
it,
start the laundry,
it's
but
a I would say it's like a cherry on top. It's great, but like
mhm.
unpacking your suitcase puts you miles ahead the next morning. It also like it helps for me, it helps complete the transition between vacation and we're home now. You know, like if I wake up and the suitcase is still on the floor, specifically because we have like a lot of stuff in our, like my office is in our master bedroom as well. And Dino's bed is huge because he's a massive dog. So like having the suitcase on the floor in and of itself is a big issue. And then if like, to your point, the stuff we're using daily is in there, it like feels like I'm still rummaging through a suitcase in a hotel room. It doesn't feel like I'm home.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it, that completing that
Friendly,
transition
little
thought.
friendly tiff.
Yeah. The first thing that we're gonna talk about, I should have asked, are you ready to get in the episode?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Let's right
Yeah.
now. Yeah,
Yeah, let's do it.
absolutely.
So the first section we're gonna talk about, have talked about in other episodes, but nothing as a whole. These are my 5 S's that turned into the 7 S's as we went along, as we progressed. I was like, "Oh, that would work too and should be said." So we have 7 things that we said to friends and family as requirements or boundaries or wishes, whatever word you want to use there. That wishes is a little bit softer, uh, for whenever they came over to visit the twins in early stages. And I made these, I think it's relevant for any child, for any new baby, but having twins, we are very prepared for them to be born early and be NICU babies. And when you have a NICU baby, you have to take extra precaution because their immune system is even lower than that of a new baby.
Weaker, but yes.
Weaker, sir. Yeah, there you go. So these rules were with that in mind. So without further ado, these are the 7 S's that we use to communicate our wishes to friends and family when visiting our babies for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I did these in kind of an order of when people do them. So the first thing, the first S, shots. And we required everybody to have a Tdap shot within the last 10 years. And they just sent us their proof of vaccination. This was really important to us, mainly because if they were NICU babies, they were born in October. And that is like the start of the season for RSV. And you do not want your newborn baby, or any baby for that matter, but especially a newborn baby, to have RSV. And so that was a requirement. They just had to have it in the last 10 years. And then if they needed to get the vaccine, they needed to have it at least 2 weeks prior to meeting the children.
So this sounds like on its face a bit controlling, but really it's to help protect your child. It also helps set expectations. All of these do, but this one specifically helps to set expectations well ahead of time for the people that you know are going to be hopefully in contact with your baby right after it's born. So like, for example, as the guest, I would want to know, hey, you need to have an updated Tdap to see my baby. I want you to see my baby. That way I have time to make sure that I have it And if I don't have it, which is the purpose of us asking for the record, I have time to go get it with the proper inoculation period or whatever they call it, right? X weeks before you can see the baby, so that I am able to. So it's not, the intent is not to throw up blockers. We said this in the first episode, we brought it up as well. The intent is more like, here's our expectations so we can keep the child safe. We want to pull you in. Here's what we need you to do based on what we've outlined.
Yeah, and it was funny. We had some friends who needed to get it, and they were like, after the
Tdap?
kids, after the twins were born, they were like, "Okay, I'm busting at the seams. When can I come over and see them?" In a nice way. It was not in a mean way at all. And we're like, "You haven't had your Tdap for 2 weeks yet, so as soon as this day hits, you can come." And they're like, "Oh, that makes total sense." I think we started communicating this around the end of second trimester, beginning of third trimester, so people had time to find their records and or get the vaccine.
Yeah. The reason specifically we ask for the record is not necessarily to like file it away or be super controlling. For the most part, it's also not to prove. It's more to like, hey, let's make sure you have it. It did, in my recollection, help a few people realize like, oh, I'm actually out of date for this. I do need to get it, right? Which is the intent of us asking for the record. So that's probably something to call out. And if you're sending your family or friends this episode, know that your person is not trying to be controlling and see your medical records and hold on to them for you. They're more trying to make sure the expectations we've laid out for everybody, including you, are met before you meet the kids in that vulnerable time.
Right. And this is something that was important to us. It may not be important to you. So make your own S's if this isn't of importance to you.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say with that is that this was a requirement that we had for the first, I think, 2 months of their life. After that, it wasn't something that we checked up on. It was just for those very early days, not after the fact. We didn't monitor anybody who came in contact. I believe anybody meeting them between, basically, I'd say they were born in the end of the year. So October through January, or like January, we required this. And that's also the height of RSV season.
So the way I read this list and interpret it, and the way I would hope for others to interpret it, is these are categories to which you can turn up and down the volume of each one. So for us, we had a line of, these are the shots we want you to have. And then there's obviously an inherent line of like, these are the millions we haven't listed on purpose because we don't care about them, right? So you can drag the volume of that category up and down however you want. But the point is, consider the category. Maybe your consideration for shots is, I don't care what people have. They come over and they can see the baby and I don't care. Maybe it's, I need them to have like 20 and it's more than we've listed here. Both are fine. The point is, you and your partner need to align on what's best for your kid in each of these categories. Does that make sense?
Yes. Great. So the next one also kind of aligns. The next S is sickness. And I wanted to include this because if you have a sniffle, even if it's just a sniffle, not a full-blown cold, you need to alert the parent that that's what you have. I guess they could be okay with it. We were not okay with it in those early days. And if you had a sniffle, we didn't have you come over. We said, we'll schedule another time. And then also, if you did happen to be around for some reason, you would not be holding the baby, just because we don't want the close contact of something that presents as a sniffle in an adult could very well be RSV, and the child is not able to overcome it as well as an adult immune system is. So if you have a sniffle, don't come. Communicate that to the parents and they will reschedule and have you come another time. I know it could be sad, especially if you're wanting to, meet them then, but it will be better for everyone to not come. You always need to inform the parent. And on that note, also, I probably wouldn't bring toddlers. I've actually read that in other books about not having toddlers come. You need to be aware of what your kids have too. And toddlers are just notoriously sick. They always have a runny nose, something like that. And so, especially if it's a NICU baby, I would leave toddlers at home.
Maybe we're different in this and we can talk about it. I don't think it's, I have a cough or something feels weird, I'm not coming. I think it's, I'm going to communicate and allow the decision to be made by the parents, right? So there's a difference. Like if you know you're super sick and you're not comfortable going over, that's different. Obviously make your own decisions for your own body. But if you have like a bit of a clear runny nose or something and you're like, oh, I feel fine, like I would be comfortable going over, instead of just going, to your point, communicate what you've got. Our nanny does a really good job of this. Communicate it to the family who has the baby. Be like, hey, here's my symptoms. I feel okay. I've tested for COVID or whatever else. Like, I don't think I have these things. Um, are you comfortable with me still coming, or would you prefer we reschedule? And either one of their answers is completely acceptable. The point here is that you are not making a decision for their kid the same way you wouldn't want them to make a decision for you and your body, right? So it's okay, but just communicate it. And also I think I kind of already said this, but be comfortable if the answer is, oh, thanks so much for letting us know, reschedule. We held in such high regard the people who did that for us compared to the ones who, which I don't think we had this as a big problem, but anybody who came over and it's like, oh, what is that? Like, we're privately saying to each other, like, are they sick? Like, why are they here? And the problem there isn't that they've come over. It's that we weren't aware and we're not able to make a decision for our kid, and there's things like, as a guest, from the guest perspective, don't think, hey, this person's being mean, or like, I should be fine. Like, they need to not worry about me. They may know something about their kid that's influencing how strict their boundaries are and would make them uncomfortable for you to be over, even with the minute symptoms you may have. So like, their kid may be immunocompromised. Their doctors may be telling them like, hey, anything is way more risky for your specific kid for whatever reason until we figure this thing out, or because they've been diagnosed with this thing. It's not, the parents don't have to tell you about those diagnoses or specific situations, but they have most likely considered them in building their criteria around their 7S's. So just don't be offended, provide the information to them, let them make the decision, and then be joyful and show up the next time you're scheduled. Did I state that all right?
Yeah, you did great. Okay, the next one. So this is now, they have their Tdap shot. They are not sick. Now they're coming over. Before coming over, we asked that people not wear scents. So scents, SCENTS, is the next S. And that means don't wear perfume, don't wear scented body lotion, don't, what's another thing? Body wash could be scented. I mean, babies are so, the scents can be so overwhelming and actually cause things. I know for me, we are pretty much a scent-free household as far as most things go. Like, we do have some stuff with essential oils, but we don't use perfumes or like anything that has the chemical cocktail of perfume or parfum in the ingredient list. And we don't use that in our laundry detergent. It actually gives me a headache, but it's also just better off for everybody. You can do the research on it, but it can be an endocrine disruptors, or it can be an endocrine disruptor, which made, I can't speak today. It can be an endocrine disruptor, which basically just messes with your hormones and can get you off balance. Some things imitate hormones, and you can then have too much of something. So again, you can do the research on it, but that is what we decided as a family. And another thing to think about is if someone smokes, if this is an active smoker, they could come over with clean clothes, but they're probably going to smell like smoke. And so a suggestion that I received for that instance is to have just an old shirt or dress shirt or something that they could change into when they get here. They will probably still smell like it in their hair or their fingers, but the baby is laying on, it will be like a fresh piece of clothing from your home. And that's a way to get around that as well.
Yeah. And as Lauren mentioned, we're probably like volume up, to use my earlier analogy on this one, because we don't really use any scents around here at all anymore. But if you have even a low volume on this, or like a wide criteria, smoking is probably a big one to still reduce, right? Contact with. Like, there are obvious studies that show secondhand smoke is sometimes more dangerous than actually smoking itself, right? And obviously that's amplified for a baby. So I doubt a smoker would push back on you that much, but I like the suggestion of having some, like, make it easier for your criteria to be met. The point is to keep the baby safe. It's not to piss people off, right? So if you have a smoker come in, they smell like smoke or whatever, to your point, allow them to use that old t-shirt. Like, hey, can you change into this really quick so the baby can lay on you? And then using enabling language like that is probably good too. Cause like, it's like you're giving them something so that they get to experience something, right? Mm-hmm. It's not, hey, why would you show up with this dirty shirt? It's different. It's like, hey, thanks for coming. We've got, like,
we want you here. Here's how we,
yeah, thanks for coming. So excited you're here. Can you throw this on? That way the baby can lay on it. It's a clean t-shirt.
Yeah, the other thing I meant to say that I forgot is like hair products can have a lot of stuff in it. And honestly, it's really awkward when or if people show up with scents, because I don't know how, I'm saying this because I understand that boundaries are hard and sometimes people deliberately cross them, but then also sometimes people accidentally do it because they don't think about it. So if you're like, I know the perfume that my mom wears. Like I like said, I reminded her, like, please don't wear she wears Ralph by Ralph Lauren.
Mhm.
Please don't wear that perfume like when you come and meet them for the first time. So it's just kind of awkward if you arrive with that, and I don't know what I would do. Just like, I'm not gonna have them go take a shower. So this is kind of an easier one for people to not follow because I think a lot of times they don't necessarily know or think what scents are in. And I'm
Not
just
also not
acknowledging,
sorry.
no, I'm just acknowledging that this is kind of hard. And yeah,
So a few things here. This is part of most people's daily routine. So like regardless of whether you've sent them the expectations, your 7S's, they'll probably forget this, right? I'm not saying it makes it okay, but just like uh, when we're providing these, we need to have sufficient grace for the people that are trying to meet them, and recognize when they're trying to, and it could be something like this where they're just not thinking about it. So I'm not saying compromise your boundaries for your baby, still communicate them, but even if we've provided somebody these criteria and they still put their normal scented lotion on in the morning like they have for 15 years or whatever, like it's hard to fault somebody for that because it's not a direct intentional act. But we can say in the same vein as please wear this shirt, like, hey, I think I smell some stuff on you. Like, we're not sure if that's going to affect the babies yet. Can you like wash your hands and arms really quick and then you can hold the baby?
yeah,
So I know you're not recommending doing anything me. I'm just saying like this is a difficult thing because it's part of people's daily routine in the same vein that smoking is. So we just need to lean in a little bit differently with a little more grace to this kind of thing because it's less blatant, in my opinion, than like,
I agree.
oh yeah, I'm disregarding the vaccine I know you want me to have. That kind of thing is different.
I think I would enter into it as like, okay, you gave the 7S's and they show up with hand lotion, and then you ask them to wash their hands or please don't wear that next time, and then they do it again. Like, so let me back
Yeah.
up. You've told them about the 7S's, they've forgotten. They're showing up with their scented hand lotion or whatever, and you're like, I would probably be annoyed. Like, did you even listen to anything that I said? Like, why are you doing that? But I encourage you, it's fine if you think it, but get out of that as quick as you can and then show a little bit of grace and be like, hey, I smell this lotion. Would you mind going and washing it off? And then please don't wear it next time, just to keep this a scent free zone that'll be best for the baby or babies. Can't leave the moms of multiples out. And then I'm not saying it's okay to be upset, but then I think after that, if they're continually doing, you might have to be a little bit more forceful. Still be, I think, kind, but be like, hey, I can smell it again. Can you please not wear it? I'm not saying you have to say why, but sometimes why helps, and be like, hey, this is an article I found. This is why we don't do scents and why we're requesting not to. Please don't do it. I don't, that's what I'm trying to say. It's hard. I don't know that I'd be
So
like, hey, you can't come over because you're wearing this, but I would just have them go wash it off every other time, I guess.
so if I could collect what you're saying a little bit, because I understand what you're saying and I agree. Um, what you're saying is it's okay to be frustrated. I agree with that. We have an opportunity to enter into addressing those problems, even if they happen repeatedly, with grace. I would agree that the amount of grace you give is probably dependent on how many times you've had to say it, right? And we talk about this, I don't remember what episode we do, but like we talked about this early on, probably in the first 5 episodes, maybe, where we talked about some strategies of like, how do you communicate and ultimately enforce when you need
I
to
think it's
some of
an
these
episode,
boundaries.
please don't say that to my children.
Sure. Yeah. So like
It was episode 2 or 3.
I want to draw a line because like to me, any expectations at any age need to be dealt with that frame of like, how do I gracefully communicate? How do I communicate expectations with the why behind them? And then how do I step in, or how does my spouse step in and help enforce for our family, and what recommendations for what to do if those just are never honored, right? I agree with that. Not the subject of this podcast. I think the line we're saying here for these 7S's is it is your responsibility to communicate them for this reason, right? And it's also good for you to have like backup plans for things like this that are easy, to your point. If it gets repeated and feels a little more blatant, people are kind of not considering what you're requesting, then go back to that other podcast, right? Then you enter into the, okay, they're not really either not trying or unintentionally not trying. It's affecting our kid. We need to figure this out, right? And the last step is like you get less time with the kid.
Is it weaponized incompetence or
Oh,
willful ignorance? If you're question marking those, go back and listen
good
to
question.
part 1 and part 2 of our last episodes called The Weight of Invisible Work.
Was I going to do that with you?
No, I actually
Called
just
The
The
Weight
Weight
of
of
Invisible
Invisible Work.
Work, part 1.
And 2. We discuss it more in depth in
Yeah,
part
but
2.
those
I
two. Oh,
actually
that's true. That's
forgot.
true.
I actually forgot the title. That's why I paused. Instead of saying,
Oh,
"Oh, aren't too
I thought
proud."
you were trying to pull me in. Okay. Something I want to say that I didn't directly say. People with the babies, it doesn't matter if you use this framework or not. If you are not communicating your expectations prior to people coming over in any way, shape, or form, it is your fault when they show up and don't meet them.
Yeah.
Is. So I'm not saying it's not okay for you to, or I'm not saying you shouldn't be frustrated. You know, if somebody comes into your house and is smoking, you have a baby there, sure, be a little frustrated. Like, but if somebody comes into the, scented hand lotion piece, like most people right now don't care about that like we do. If we never say, hey, we're keeping scents away from the baby, there's like, they might be thinking they're doing us a service and making themselves
And
smell good and
soft.
having soft hands and like, you know what I'm saying? So uh, to be able to communicate, hey, you're not meeting here, like help us keep the baby safe, you need to send your expectations ahead of time and make sure that those people, especially the ones that are going to be around a lot, understand them.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it is your fault. I don't mean to be too direct, but like it's not fair for you to get mad if you're not clearly communicating your expectations.
I forgot which one I think we talked about that on episode 17, My Regrets in Pregnancy and Postpartum,
Yeah.
perhaps. I think it's really easy to think that the person is doing something to you. And if you're not thinking that, it could be that the person doesn't care enough to remember or is putting themselves before you. And I completely understand that. But I think
Yeah.
more often than not, it's just that they're not they're not trying to be malicious is my point more often than not. And so just to try to keep that in mind, and it will save you a lot of not heartache, but it's easy to get angry, I feel like, for me personally, in this postpartum period, just because of all the hormones and stuff going up and down. And so if you can just try to think like, it doesn't make it better, but at least they're not doing it to you. Or I think most of the time people aren't doing it to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that.
Okay, speaking of babies, one of our favorite baby products is a baby balm by Primarily Pure. I love using this. I like to use it as an eye cream. I've used it as a moisturizer all over my face, but I also use this on Cypress and Olive, whether as a diaper rash type cream over cuts, scrapes. I use it as a facial moisturizer for them. Use it on everything. It's amazing. But Primarily Pure just launched 2 new balms 2 weeks ago that I wanted to tell you about. One is an antioxidant balm, which I have tried, and it's a beautiful orange color, I believe, from the jojoba oil. I think that's how you say it.
The
And
what?
Jojoba,
That
jojoba.
might be a brand new word for me. Interesting.
Oh, it's this beautiful orange color. It smells amazing just from all like natural scents, essential oils type stuff. And it's amazing. They also released an everything balm, which I have not tried yet, but it's basically a balm version of their everything spray that is a great spray too. So if you want to try those out, or maybe even just try the baby products, you can use code BGMAD for 10% off your every Primarily Pure order.
BGMAD.
Yeah,
Every is a big distinction.
I
It's
know.
every order.
It's every order. You can use it every time.
It sounds great.
Yeah. Use it. Let us know what you think.
Okay. Can you just give me your best impression of coffee house jazz music?
Do 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 do
That's your
do
that
do
is
do
your
do
impression of the
do.
song that's playing at your think of a friend's
Ba ba
coffee
doo
shop.
ba 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 ba
Okay, there
boo
it
be
is.
doo be doo be doo be doo be doo ba 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 ba. Wow! The best part of waking up is not Folgers in your cup.
Reach. That soundbite with the pouring coffee, I think we could sell that to a coffee shop.
Okay, I like it. What are you drinking?
Maybe not Folgers since we're against them right now.
Folgers come out with a single origin situation here, and we'll give you a try.
I'll say this, Folgers, you're doing great serving the sector of the market you're trying to serve.
Yeah, we
That's
all
what
have
I'd
our
say.
demographic.
No. Uh, sorry, we don't have to use this. That just sounds racial. We all have our demographic. I know what you're trying to say.
Dad will drink Folgers. No, I mean, he'll drink other things, but he'll drink Folgers. He'll drink McDonald's. There is a specific, I guess, target market. Is that the better word?
That's what I'm getting at. And that's the difference between,
Got it.
demographic. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway, let's move. Are you good with scents? Let's move on. Wait, that scent of coffee, that kind of goes with what we just talked about. Coffee is an okay scent
For our household.
for our home.
In our 7S's. The coffee. This is a Go Get 'em Tiger coffee. Go Get 'em Tiger is a shop here in Los Angeles. There's 4 or 5 of them at least, maybe more. They might be somewhere else, but I'm not entirely sure. But I think they started here. They're a third wave coffee shop. They do their own roasting. Very, very good stuff. But it's in a Cometeer pod. We're fans of Cometeer, especially for mornings like this, where we need to get an early podcast recording in before work, and we don't necessarily have time to take care of the kids, walk the dog, and make a single cup pour over. And I'm one of those nerds that takes 10 minutes to make 1 cup of coffee, and I'm proud of it. Is that what you want? Cometeer commercial?
Yeah, sure, but it's not a commercial, but thank you. But we do have a discount link.
I'd be fine with Cometeer sponsoring us.
Yeah. Yeah, Cometeer. I'll put the link in our show notes. But let's move on. Ready?
Yes, let's get out of ad mode.
Number 4, shoes. We required everybody to take off their shoes upon entering the nursery. And that is because we didn't want everything that is in the bottom or on the bottom of shoes to be tracked into a place where babies are laying on the floor. We personally mostly take them off downstairs, like right when you walk in our door, but we had a hard stop on shoes going into the nursery because that is the time, or that is the space where our children spent most of their time, especially on the floor. And when we talked about this before, we mentioned if there are elderly people or just people who aren't able to take their shoes off as easily, or you're wearing a shoe that is hard to take off. What are the things that are called? Do you know that you can put on the shoes if you don't take them off?
I think they're like shoe covers. They look like shower caps, and you can put them on your shoes.
Yeah, people will wear them in the hospitals and stuff and
Yeah.
operating rooms. You can buy those for your home and is a good alternative for having people keep their shoes on instead of taking them off. You also could spray the bottom of their shoes with disinfecting cleaner, I suppose.
Maybe put that recommendation in your back pocket and then throw it away. I would actually adjust this since we've had the twins. And part of it's because of the Crosswave that we've just got, and the Bissell Crosswave mop and vacuum combo. And I realized how dirty our floors get, like with us not having shoes even in the living room. So I would probably say we're mostly a no shoes in the household, with the exception of the area by the front door where we keep them. So I would say, next baby or whatever, like that's probably
No
my
shoes
new
in the
line.
house.
No shoes in the house is
I like
my
it.
line. So we're going to turn up the volume on shoes for us.
I like it. So they've taken off their shoes. They're in your home. They've taken off their shoes. What's next? The first thing that everybody had to do before holding the baby was
wash their hands.
Wash their hands. So this S is suds, because they need to suds that soap up to their elbows and just wash
like
their
they're
hands.
Scrubbing in for surgery.
Correct. Under the nails, especially if they have long nails. Oh my gosh, don't even get me started about all that. I mean, even my nails right now are too long for my liking. Ugh. So many things can get under your nails. So just wash your hands. I feel like that's one that people can't necessarily argue with. And I feel like it's pretty normal to require you to wash your hands.
I don't care if people argue with our expectations. They're for our family.
Yeah. And I would even say wash your hands over a hand sanitizer. Obviously, depending on where you are, there may not be water available, I guess. And so hand sanitizer at the bare minimum, but 100% wash your hands.
Hand sanitizer that honors the scents volume.
Yeah. So Primally Pure makes one that I like. And then there's another one that I like too. That's a spray. I'll link some in the show notes that are approved by us. Anything else on that one?
That one's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
I would say like require like, a lower volume is like, hey, have you washed your hands? Or, a higher volume is like, let's wear gloves or whatever, But the point is like clean hands, and however you define that, set that expectation for handling the baby specifically.
Yeah.
I would say anybody who's coming to see them, even if you're not letting people hold the baby yet, still adhere to this, but especially for those that are holding the baby.
Yeah. Agree. Okay. S number 6, smooches. Please don't kiss the baby. Honestly,
Both twins right now are giving kisses, and it's very cute. It's worthy of mentioning. We'll say
yes.
good night kiss, and they'll go. It's the
So cute.
best.
Okay, but honestly, I don't even think I really kissed my baby on the or Cypress and Olive on the face until maybe a couple months after, just because, especially if you have a NICU baby, kisses, the mouth is just, I don't say the mouth is dirty, but there's a lot going on with the mouth. You could have a cold sore that the baby will not be able to more easily overcome like you can, and you can also transfer RSV. Again, harping on the RSV season. There is a season, but RSV can thrive honestly whenever. So would not recommend, do what's best for you, but we did not have people kiss the baby at all until, I guess, past 3 months, and even then it was more so recommended on the head. Again, I don't remember the first time I kissed the cheek, but I didn't do that early on just because I didn't want to pass anything possible over to them and wanted their little immune systems to have a little bit more time before being introduced to dirty mouths. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's the same thing as like, would you sneeze on a baby? Like it's the same thing. Like you just, it feels natural to me. I think while this one makes a lot of sense to me, it's probably one of the most difficult to enforce. I would say, because especially with like grandparents and direct relatives, because they really want to love on your kids, and I get that. Like I want to kiss the cheek of a little baby that's my niece or nephew or whatever too, or grandkid one day, right? But this is definitely one that, like, again, on you if you don't communicate these expectations. But I would say communicating a why along with this one, even if it seems obvious, is definitely really important, because I think it can come off as you saying like, hey, we don't want anybody kissing our baby, and we don't care about you, and you're not important enough, and blah, 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 which obviously is not what you're saying. But use that opportunity to communicate your why of like, hey, we're trying to keep them safe. Right now, we're not even kissing them right now. Like, here's why, same reason we don't want people who are sick to come in right now. Like, there will be a day in the near future where we're cool with this.
Yeah, and the other thing that kind of lives along with this too is just like don't put their hands in your mouth, or they may like reach at you, but don't, they suck on their hands and stuff. So just don't kiss their hands or put their hands in your mouth.
Yeah, I mean, well, for me, my understanding of our volume line for the smooches was you're not kissing the baby at all. It didn't matter about where. It's like
I
no
know,
kissing
but
baby. No, I'm not saying don't call it out. I'm just saying, like, to me, it's a easier blanket line to give, but that's a good call out. Like, because kids, especially that young, do try and, to your point, like reach into the mouths and noses that they see because they're still exploring the world. So yeah, it's a good thing to call out, because then hopefully the person who's your guest can help you to enforce that, recognize that it might happen, and be like, oh no, and take the hand away, and then, whatever else.
yeah, and yeah, I said that because I think kissing in general, a baby is, like you kind of said, is already somewhat involuntary when you're with a baby. You just want to kiss it. And also, someone could be taking it very direct, like, well, I'm not kissing them. They're touching my mouth type thing. So they may reach at you, just
Yeah.
no mouth contact, please.
Yeah.
Okay. And the last S, the seventh S, is for sexy pics. And by this, I mean, for us, we did not want any naked photos taken of the twins at any capacity. And we also don't post pictures of the top of Olive, our daughter, I mark them out if a picture is shared. There's a lot around this too. We don't post them scared or sad. That was important to us, that, I know for some parents, they like to post like, oh, this is my baby having a meltdown, and it's because I wouldn't let them eat sand today or something like that. It's just not funny for us. Like, I wouldn't want that posted. There's a lot about opinions and thoughts on children's pictures on the internet anyway, and there's a lot of creepos. So I don't know. Use your best judgment with this. That's what and this is what we adhere to.
So choose your volume knob here. I would say not that sexy pics is a bad title, but this could also be adapted as like sharing media in general, right? So our line is probably at
What
like, if they were an adult, would we share something similar? Probably not. Like if they're cutely naked bathing in our little bath out front, we have cute pictures of that are for us, but we wouldn't share those because if they were an adult and they were like, I mean, that would be weird. But if they're naked as an adult, we're not going to share that picture, right? So that's an easy line for us to draw. There are some families who draw the line at, I don't share pictures of my children at all, or some that draw the line at, I don't share their face, but if they're in pictures, I'll blur out their face. Find your line. For us, it was the sexy pics as you define it because of the 7S's. Really, it's just like inappropriate areas or private areas of your children don't get shown. Some people post pictures of like their kids getting changed, and sometimes it's for informational purposes on a platform like Facebook to ask like, is this a weird bowel movement or whatever? Like, we're not blaming people who are doing that as doing something terrible or malicious. Just our line is we're not sharing those things.
and also both of us don't like whenever we're taking photos, I think even if they are like outside naked in the pool, typically I think we tilt the camera to where the lower half of their
True.
body is not
That's true.
included. Like people can hack your phone, again, disgusting to think about, but and just sad to think about, but it is true. And so that was just something that was important to us. And as far as shared media, I think that's a great, probably a better uh title for it, because also I think I would be clear with your family, like whenever we sent the initial photos, it was not posted online yet. And so we said, please don't share these with anybody and please don't post these anywhere. So that was a line that we drew, and if that's important to you, I do think you need to say it, because sometimes people just get excited and they want to share, whether it's forwarding to somebody who you haven't gotten to tell yourself or posting on a public platform like Facebook to where like you aren't ready for them to be announced to the world yet, or you may not have even wanted it announced on Facebook. So I would be clear with that. And we did that whenever we sent our photos, our first like photos. Please don't send this to other people and please don't post this anywhere.
Yeah. And that's another part of the volume of this, I think, is like, do you let people have or take photos of your children that early on at all? Right. That I could see that as like hey, we're not, similar to a wedding ceremony. We're not taking pictures of them right now. Right. And the reason I say that is not necessarily because it's hard to control. It is hard to control, but not necessarily because of that. It's more because like working in technology, I know if anything gets posted or gets to a phone, it's everywhere forever. So it's not, hey, mom or mother-in-law, I don't trust that you're going to keep the photo on your phone. It's, we don't want the photo to exist. I can understand that perspective the same way I can understand we don't want their faces to be posted or whatever. So yes, set your clear expectations. But I think what I'm trying to say as well is like, it's very comfortable to take and have photos and videos in our current society with all of our devices. So it's going to feel uncomfortable if you've chosen your line to be no photos, no sharing. I'm not sending you photos either. It's going to be difficult to enforce that. Use this list ahead of time to try and reinforce that expectation, get people comfortable with it. When they arrive, reinforce it. Same thing as we have a wedding event invitation or sign when you walk in, like reminding you this is a devices
Unplugged.
off or unplugged ceremony. Here's what that means, blah, blah, blah. Be comfortable enforcing that when people walk in. If you see somebody grab their phone, which it's okay if they do, it's an instinctual thing to do right now. Our phones are our cameras. Remind them like, oh, hey, I'll send you some later. We're not taking pictures right now. Just a reminder, right? And I would say 90% of the time, people are not thinking about it. They didn't build these expectations like you did. They probably don't remember them. They're not doing it on purpose. Just enforce it, right? Yeah, I think I went off on a tangent, but
Yeah.
it's a tough thing. The media part of this is tough. That's why I'm thinking of sharing and not just sexy pics, because like
No, I like it.
the sexy pics part is um, I would say it's like X number on the volume knob. It's not the category. The category is taking and sharing media.
Yeah, two things. One example is that I also like we didn't take the somewhat popular naked newborn photos. Our
Mm.
newborn photos were clothed. But if I had, like, I have no problem if you want to do it. That's what you want to do. If I would have taken them, I would have not, I personally would not have posted that online. Like, I see a cute baby booty, but again, there are disgusting things happening with pictures online and you're putting that out there for people to find. It's on the internet's forever. So like for me personally, I again, even if something as cute and seemingly innocent as that, I would personally not be doing, just as another example of how far our knob is turned up. Again, there are people higher than us who don't show their children at all, don't take pictures, don't post, don't show their face, but I think that we're pretty high up there.
Yeah. And this is more of a how do you deal with a situation thing, but like, uh, if people have pictures, maybe you've allowed them to, you're sending pictures to a private family group chat, and one of them appears on Facebook or social media or whatever, and you notice it. It's okay to be frustrated, especially if you've communicated these expectations ahead of
Mhm.
time. Be frustrated in private, be direct and graceful in public and in your communication with them. What I'm saying is it's okay to say like, hey, I noticed you posted this. Reminder, this was a private photo. We're not sharing these yet. Can you please take it down?
Yeah.
Right? Be
Yeah.
nice, be direct.
Mhm.
I mean, they may not do it. That's a different conversation. Uh, I would expect that they would, right? And I would, if requested that I take something down, I would do it as
Mhm.
well. I think that's a healthy practice to be in general on the internet. But like, be comfortable communicating that in the same way that people are not going to remember always to not wear their scented lotion. They might not remember, oh, we're not posting pictures
Mhm.
of Cypress and Olive or whoever the kids are yet, right? Be graceful, reinforce your expectations. Also, it's not the end of the world if that happens. Like I know I've said earlier, it's on the internet forever. That's true. But you're not going to perfectly control the environment. The expectation that you will perfectly control the environment is going to drive you crazy and going to make you sound way more mean and angry to your family and friends than you intend to be. Your intention is to protect the child. It's not to be a controlling jerk, right?
Mhm.
So if that happens, I would argue it probably will. If you're sharing photos, something like that is going to happen, right? An aunt doesn't understand how Facebook works and thinks she just sent a private message and she's actually posted something, right? That's got to be everybody's situation. Or a mother or mother-in-law or father and father-in-law doesn't remember, just doesn't remember that 3 months ago you sent them the 7 S's and one of them was please don't share the photos for the first few months.
Yeah.
Be nice, be kind, be graceful, and be direct.
Yeah, and I'd say that we had an instance where a photo was posted that we asked to be removed and it was removed. I mean, and there's
Yeah.
no malice. I'm not even like I kind of forgot about it until you just said that, but um, yeah,
And
uh,
I didn't say this, but like if you're being asked that, hey, can you take this down? Like as a reminder, we're not, don't be upset. Like the person, they should communicate that message with grace, as I've already recommended. But it doesn't mean you've done something wrong or you're screwing up or they don't care about you. Just help them, help their child be safe.
yeah. I actually don't know if this is now an eighth S, but I thought of something is
This
screen
is going to be
time.
like a 30S list by the time we're done with
No,
this
this will be the
podcast.
last one, screens, because one, I was thinking phones are disgusting, and I've tried to wipe mine off every night, just before bed. I as part of, like, my nighttime routine, but phones are disgusting, so I'd probably if they're gonna be holding their phone around the baby, fine, but you're washing your hands, let's wash off your phone. They also make, like, the cases you can stick them in to disinfect them, but phones are disgusting. And then also, screen time. One of our requirements was if you're around there, please don't show screens to our children, and we did do FaceTime, we allowed that, but we didn't put on, videos or visual music video type things either, for them, and so that was a requirement of us. Maybe it's, 7.5 S's, but I actually think that'd be a good 8 S to add.
So I like the recommendation. I have 2 points. I would argue that the keeping things clean belongs under SUDS. So,
Okay.
but I agree with screens maybe being a number 8. Um, but like, I think you can go down a rabbit hole of adding too many if you're like, phones need to be clean, gloves need to be clean, jackets need to be clean. You know what I mean? The point is, whatever's interacting with the baby, ourselves and our hands included, those need to be clean. That to me is
Yeah,
under SUDS. But
yeah.
I agree with the screen time thing. I think that one's tougher with newborns. Um, FaceTime is a big one, especially like in our recent lockdowns. Like FaceTime was one of
Well,
the
then I said
ways.
we allowed FaceTime, but
Yeah,
okay.
that's an exclusion. Yeah, but I could see FaceTime as, or excuse me, screen time as being one of the categories. To your point,
We first introduced screens right before they turned 1, like, around 11.5 months, but that's a whole different topic. Um, but yeah, those are the S's. We hope they help you, and if you have another S idea, let us know, or if there was a boundary that you wanted, um, let us know what that was too.
as a reminder, we will not be offended if you don't use our system. The point is,
Mm,
and our strong recommendation is, think about, record your expectations, and communicate your expectations gracefully.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. What an episode. And an episode that Nick thought was like, oh, do we have enough conversation to talk or enough
you
things to
said you
talk
thought
about?
it was going to be short earlier. I think we both thought this would be a short one.
Yeah, I definitely didn't think it would be almost 2 hours long. So we are going to break this up into 2 episodes again.
It's our new
Who
thing.
are we? Who are we? So this is going to be the end of episode 1. And we're so glad you made it this far.
End of episode 23, part 1.
Correct. Sorry.
It's okay.
End of part 1, episode 23, part 1. Come back next week for part 2.
Yes, and as always, I don't know your social media spiel, but I think we should still do it. Follow us, like us, direct message us, carrier pigeon us at boygirlmom.dot.com. How'd I do?
Kind of, but there sounds like there's a period and a dot. At boygirlmom.dot.com, or send us an email at boygirlmom@boygirlmom.com, or follow our website, sign up for our newsletter at boygirlmom.com.
Perfect. I'll get better at it. I think I was close.
We'll see you next week for part 2 of episode 23.
Yes, thanks for joining.
Boy, girl, mom, and dad. Gotta wash those butts together. It's a trip, but we'll guide you through with tips and tricks for boys and girls too.